All right, good morning, everybody. So, welcome to CSE224. All right, so we've got a good group of people here so far. We're missing a few people. We're going to go ahead and start on time anyway. Number of things to do this morning. Some of them administrative, and then some we're going to actually get into some of the actual core of the course and discuss some of the assignments that are due this week, because you got a few assignments due this week, because may as well start off getting some good stuff done. So first thing to note, this is a remote class. It's online in the sense that we're not meeting in person, but it is a scheduled class, so it's every Monday from 10 to 10:50. And we meet via Zoom. And if you're listening to me, you've obviously got the Zoom info, which means you've probably got Canvas access. So all of that is set up. So we meet every day, 10 to 10:50. I like to keep things fairly informal. I'm sitting here, I'm talking to a microphone, and I'm looking into a camera. I know there's people out there, but the remote format can tend to be not as focusing as an in-person classroom. It's easy to wander, it's easy to multitask, to do other things, to tune in once in a while and see what's going on. We all do that, right? I do that when I'm in forced meetings at Clark. Everybody does this. But I'm going to ask you to try to, as much as possible, engage with the class while we're in here. Try to stay focused, pay attention, think about what we're doing, answer questions if I ask them, ask questions if they come up, and so on and so forth. There's a chat window. You're free to use the chat window to talk to me or to talk to other people. I'll suggest trying to minimize distractions. Sometimes the chat window goes off into, conversations about current events and so on. If you can keep it, focused on what we're doing in class as much as possible, that will help. But not a whole lot of rules or regulations about Zoom itself. If you have a webcam and you feel like using it, I encourage that. Okay, I'll generally keep my camera on unless the performance on my machine is lagging. I don't require cameras, but it's more engaging if you know that there are other people in the classroom and you can see them and they can see you. It tends to help with that whole kind of staying present, keeping focus thing. So if you want to use your camera, I'll invite you to do that. Not required. Microphones, I'll ask you to keep them muted unless you're using them to communicate. If you have a question, you can post it in chat, or you can use the microphone. I'll try to keep an eye on chat. If I'm not seeing your question, feel free to just open your mic and say, "Excuse me, can I ask a question?" or whatever, and that will work fine. Let's see what else. So I record my lectures. They'll be posted on YouTube shortly after class, within a few hours usually. And what you will see on the recording is basically whatever you see in this shared screen. So typically it will be, me doing some notes here, or it may be a web page, or it may be a terminal window. But what you're seeing in my shared screen, that's what gets recorded, and what you're hearing is what gets recorded on the audio. So I don't record participant lists or the chat window. I keep those off the window, and so privacy issues and such. And yeah, if you need to switch off for some reason and come back in, feel free to do that. I'll take attendance in a few minutes, but we'll give people some time to sort things out. All right. There's some other features in Zoom. For example, you can raise your hand. I don't know if that's going to catch my attention as well as a chat message, or certainly as well as just using your microphone. But you can experiment with that if you like. Um, let's see, what else can I tell you? Um, when you see something like this pop up, like the word intro here in the corner, that's a video tag. So that's a time-stamped tag that'll show up in the recording of the video that you can use to jump around different topics and so on. And I'll run you through a list of the video links and stuff in a little bit. So what I want to do now is I want to talk about basically course goals. I want to do an attendance ping, and then I want to run through some of the administrative stuff. So take a look at the syllabus and the Canvas page, and then we'll start talking about Linux and doing some of the things we need to do this week. But let's start with why we're in this course. What's the goals of CSE224? Most people here are computer science majors. They're bound towards a transfer degree with a goal of continuing at a university, most often WSU, to get a bachelor's in computer science. And so the computer science sequence here at Clark, the 200 level sequence, is really the stepping stones to the computer science courses that you would take at a university. And there's 4 courses here at Clark in the 200 level sequence. So there's CSE224, which is what we're in right now. And this is basically Linux and programming tools. It's an attempt to get you as comfortable as possible working in a Linux environment, working from a command line, get you more familiar with the kinds of tools that you use in a programming environment. So compiling, better ways to compile make files, debugging, source code control, Git in particular. All these tools that we use, plus just moving around in a Unix environment, directory structures, file types, all that kind of stuff. So it's the core set of tools that you'll use throughout the rest of the sequence here and most of what you do at a university. It's also a lot of C programming. So you've already taken CSE121, which is an intro C programming course. This is sort of the more advanced C programming. We don't get heavy into things like dynamic memory, pointers, and that sort of stuff. So if that stuff was fuzzy in 121, that's okay. We'll come back to that in winter quarter in 222. But we really want to get good at core programming in here. Taking a problem, coming up with an algorithm to achieve a solution, implementing that algorithm in C, debugging it, getting it to run, and so on and so forth. So focus on C programming, Unix, and then also some shell programming, so shell scripting using Bash, which is also a way to enhance our programming skills in general. That's this course. 222 in winter is data structures in C. That's where we really get down to the metal, and we're manipulating memory by ourselves. So we're doing pointers and mallocs and frees and things like that, and learning about these things called data structures. And then 223 in spring continues that course, but switches to Java. So we learn an object-oriented language, and we use that for advanced data structures. The 4th course, which you're probably taking either this quarter or in winter, is discrete structures, CSE215. And that's some of the math and logic and theory behind computer science. So propositional calculus, Boolean algebra, set theory, functions, all sorts of things that feed what we do in computer science. That course is fine to take either this quarter or in winter. It filled up pretty quickly in this quarter. I will overload it in winter, so you'll definitely get in. So that's the CS sequence. We're focusing on 224 right now. So if there's any questions along the way, by the way, just go ahead and ask. Don't wait for me to say, are there any questions or anything like that. You can always just throw something in chat, or like I said, use your microphone if you like. All right, let's talk about attendance. So attendance is required, even if I can't spell it. Attendance is required every day for the whole class period. And I'll take attendance a few times throughout the day, and then every week I'll record an attendance score from 0 to 5 in Canvas. And attendance is going to be done through Zoom. So here's what's going to happen. Periodically, throughout a lecture, I will say, okay, I'm going to take attendance, send me an attendance note or an attendance ping. And what you want to do is send me a direct chat message, and it should be in the following form. It should be your Canvas name. So if I was doing this, it would be Nick Macias, a dash, and then uppercase the word here. So go ahead and send me a direct message with your Canvas name, a dash, and the word here, and that will get you credit for this attendance call. And while you're doing that, I'll mention two other things, right? It's possible that you had to go away for a minute, and while you were away, I took attendance, right? And I don't want you to get a 0 if that's the case. So if you're going away from your keyboard, just send me your name, but send a dash AFK to tell me you're away from keyboard. You don't have to give me a reason or anything. Just let me know so that if I take an attendance while you're away, I can see, oh, you were here right before I took it. And then when you come back from being away, just send me another direct message, but with a dash and the word back. Right? And so this tells me, okay, you went away for 5 minutes, that's fine. I took attendance during that time, you still get credit for it. But you know, if you go away from keyboard at 10 o'clock and you come back at 10:50, you're not going to get credit for attendance. So just use this if you're stepping away to take care of something. And let's see, yeah, direct message is available, so only Nick sees. And yeah, it's not a problem if you send it to everyone. You'll still get credit for it, but if you don't want to broadcast your name or broadcast to the class that you're going away from your keyboard or something, right, just send it as a direct chat, and that's fine. Alright, so if you just tuned in, send me an attendance message, your name, dash, and the uppercase word here, H-E-R-E, and that'll get you credit for an attendance ping. Alright, so let's take a quick look at Canvas. I'm not going to go through this in excruciating detail, but there's a few things I want to mention in here. So yeah, we meet every day at 10. I already said that. We'll go through the syllabus and the additional course policies in detail in a minute. Zoom meeting info, everybody here has got that information already. Office hours. So the best way that you're going to be able to get a hold of me is during office hours. Okay? And those are every day from 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning. There's Zoom information. You can also go to engrcs.com/schedule and see my office hours there. So these hours are shared with students from other classes and students who are seeking general advising from me. So if you want to catch me during then, I suggest coming early and be prepared to hang out. Okay, so set your Zoom setup so that it'll make a sound when I let you in from the waiting room, and you know, bring something else to do. So all right, and someone just posted the link in Canvas. Cool. And there's a waiting room on the office, so if nothing's happening when you've connected, somebody else is probably in my office. I'll try to send a message every now and then to the waiting room saying, hey, you know, you're next in line, or, you know, I'll be with you shortly, or something like that. All right, let me grab this.
Google monetizes your videos?
Google monetizes all videos. If you're not on the monetizing program, they still reserve the right, as of last November, to throw commercials in your videos. So yeah, I make these videos freely available. I don't put commercials in them, but Google does. I might switch to Vimeo at some point. It costs me a certain amount per month, but I might do that.
All you do is just run an ad blocker and you don't see the ads.
Does that actually work?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
I use Opera.
Oh, okay.
It's a new version of Opera, Opera GX, and it has a built-in ad blocker.
Awesome.
Or if you don't, that uBlock Origin is the most godly thing ever.
Okay, good to know. The other thing I do on Windows, because I have a Windows laptop sometimes, the commercials on there are like 10 times as long as they are on Linux. But if I just refresh the page 4 times, it skips through the commercials. Um, but anyway, yeah, that's Google, not me. How to Quick Start Guide goes through some of the things that we're going to talk about in more detail, but basically, how to get connected to the Linux server, and some basic Unix commands and so on and so forth. There's a textbook for the course. It's not required. You definitely don't want to buy it. It's an open source PDF download. It's just a Linux text. There's a ton of information available on Linux. There's nothing particular about this one except it's open source and it seems pretty comprehensive. So if you want, a hard copy or a electronic copy available, you can download that. As we start developing Bash programming, we'll be learning how to do conditional statements, loops, arithmetic, and so on. You're going to discover, or you may already know, that there are a billion ways to do anything in Bash. Okay? I'm going to teach one particular way to do most of everything that we want to do, and I'm going to require you to use that particular way. So when we write a conditional statement, I'm going to do it a certain way. I'm going to expect you to do it that way when you turn in assignments or take tests. So we'll go through that as we start developing. All right, so this gets you to the lecture videos, and there's a few of these out already. These are kind of my boilerplate videos that are useful information for this course, but the recorded lectures will also show up on this playlist. And you can look at these as you like, and we'll talk about which of these are most relevant as we go through. There's nothing on the timestamp index yet because this is the first course of the school year, but eventually when you come to this link, you'll see something like this. So if you hop up a level and just go to videos, you can get to last year's version in 2020, and this is what the subject link will look like. So it'll show you a course number, a date, a timestamp, and a subject, and you can search for this. So if you want to know about, make files, you can do a search for that and find relevant videos. And you're welcome to go back to last year's videos also, but we'll have this year's stuff going up. All right, if we do interesting code development during class, I will post that on the server, and you can get to all that shared code through this link. Discord, there's a Discord server for my courses. It's not required. I generally won't do anything on there that's essential for the course, so I won't announce something important on Discord unless I also announce it in Canvas or in class. But some people have found this useful. As a way to just kind of hang out and chat with other people, or if you have questions that are very sort of general, like do you know if we have class next week, or do you understand what he meant when he said such and such about this assignment, right? It can be a good place to sort of ping other students and get some help. I don't monitor that. I don't moderate it. I pop in once in a while if someone asks questions directed at me. I might ping it with an answer, but I don't moderate it, so you got to play nice. Okay, if it gets to be an issue where people are being offensive or something, I'll just shut it down. So use that appropriately. There's an optional C text listed in here. This is also a free download. It's called I Can See Clearly Now. I know, bad pun. This I wrote a couple of years ago as a sort of bridge between CSE224 and CSE224. And it's very short. The chapters are, typically less than 10 pages each. But they drill down into really the core of certain aspects. For example, if you're struggling with doing input, right, with reading input from the user and changing it to an integer or something like that. Well, I got 5 pages here on input and parsing, and string manipulation, and something called state-based programming, which we talk about in 270 a little bit. So this can be a useful text. If you want, download a copy of it. Keep it for reference. Maybe there'll be something in here useful. If not, it's free, so no harm done. But that's an optional text. There's another link to a few videos, getting started on GitLab and using GDB for debugging, and we'll talk about regular expressions later in the course, and these are some links there.
Are we going to do a lot of regex?
Not a whole lot, but we will spend a few days playing around with it, and it's just another useful thing to have in your toolkit. This whole course is about building up a personal toolkit, right? And Linux is, this big, huge universe of, billions of commands. And we're gonna talk about, this tiny little section of that huge space. But I'm gonna try to give you some things that you can pick and choose from, or maybe expand on to give yourself a good set of tools to use in your Unix life. All right, one-day programs. So, programs, okay. One-day programs. A really big part of learning to program is writing programs, right? That's the only way you learn how to program. You can read, you can watch videos, you can look at other people's code, you can study textbooks. You got to write code. And so part of what I found is useful to help people in their code development are these one-day programs. And they're short assignments intended to be doable in maybe like 5 minutes if you understand where we are in the course. So we'll talk about something, and then you'll get a one-day program to test your understanding of a concept. And if you really understand the concept, they take 5, maybe 10 minutes to do. And they're graded automatically. You can write your code, you can submit it to a grading system, and it will give you a grade on the spot. And once you get 100%, you're good to go. But if you think that you understand how to use scanf to read input from the user, but in fact you don't, these one-day programs will make that really clear. And in that case, you might spend 2 or 3 hours trying to do this program. Okay, but that's time you've got to spend. Because if we're talking about how to read input using scanf and you don't understand how to do it, the rest of the course is going to be a huge struggle, because we're going to use that almost every time that we write code. Or if we're talking about how to call a function, and you think you understand how to do this. Well, you sit down and you try to write the one-day program and you get 0 points out of 10. There's something about writing functions you don't understand. And again, it might take you, 15, 20 minutes. It might take you 2 or 3 hours to figure out what the problem is. That's the moment where you need to be spending that time, though. Because once we talk about calling functions, we're going to use that the rest of the course. And if you don't know until, the midterm that you don't understand functions, well, you're just going to be building problems on top of problems. So these are a way to sort of encourage you to keep up and self-assess yourself, assess your understanding, and know that you've got what you need to have up to a point so that you can continue on to the next subject. So these are one-day programs. We'll go through these later today also, but there's one assignment due, which is ODP 401. That's due on Wednesday. So that's a 2-day program, right? Because this is the first time. And so assess is not the same. Go ahead.
Is there a bot that goes through your code and then actually runs it or something like that?
Yeah, so there's an assess command, and when you say assess, it will take your code and it will run it and analyze the output and source code and all that kind of stuff.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, because as a teacher, I had this tension, right, which is I really wanted students to be writing code pretty much every day, right? Certainly when we get to a new topic, I want students writing code, but and in a good setup, it might take me 10, 15 minutes to go through a student's program and figure out what they've done and is it correct or not, right? Well, do the math. 60 students, that's 15 hours a day. I would spend grading programming assignments. Not possible. So this is a sort of compromise.
I already did the first one, and I thought I was going to do, just for goofs, try to do it in C++ and see if it analyzes the output correctly.
Did it?
I didn't, but I was tempted to try.
I think that'll work for the first one, yeah. Okay, so we'll go through ODPs in a few minutes, and I'll talk about grading and stuff. So attendance, I already mentioned, right? Five points a week, unless there's a holiday. So week 3 there's a holiday, so it's 4 points, and so on. Homework, most of your homework points come from these long programming assignments. Programming assignment 1 is already posted. We're not ready to talk about it yet, but it's a little bash game that you're going to write. But homework 1 and homework 2 you should be able to do this week, and we'll go through those in some more detail also. Service learning project we will go over in a little bit. We've got a bit of time, and so I'm not going to talk about that right now, but that's a longer term project. Midterm and final exam. Midterm is on the 22nd, that's a Friday. Final exam, when I made the syllabus, Clark hadn't posted their exam schedule, but we'll follow whatever Clark's final exam schedule is. All right, so let me dig into the syllabus.
Nick, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
If the code somehow goes into an infinite loop, will the assess code notice that and stop assessing, or will it?
No, it'll run forever. So just Control C to get out of that. All right, so you can read through the syllabus on your own, but let me just hit the highlights of it here. So we've talked about what the course description is. So my name's Nick. If I didn't introduce myself, I'm Nick Macias. There's my email address. That's the surest way to be able to reach me, but you're going to want to use office hours for questions on assignments and such. Rather than email, because again, I've got like 100-some students this quarter. Textbooks, tentative schedule, we'll stick to more or less, but we may deviate from that pretty quickly. Course outcomes, these are the things that you should come out of the course. If you've got a C or better, you should come out of the course knowing these outcomes, right? And these are the things that allow WSU or some other school to say, okay, you've got credit for this course. So grading, homework and programming assignments, 30%. Okay, that's the biggest piece of your course grade. One-day programs, 10%. Attendance, 10%. Midterm and final, 20-25%. Service learning project, 5%. So pretty straightforward grading rubric. Academic honesty and plagiarism. I'm not going to say a whole lot about this. Let me make 3 or 4 quick comments. First comment, you got to do your own work in this course, okay? You are not allowed to take code from online sources, from other people, from things that you found somewhere, and turn that in as your own work, okay? That's pretty obviously cheating. But it's also questionable if you look online, you see a solution to a program you're trying to write, and then you try to write your own program. Because once you've seen a solution in code, even if you close that website and you start writing the code yourself, you're still going to know that code in your brain. And what you write is going to end up looking an awful lot like the code that you saw. Okay? So you really, really want to avoid looking at online sources, looking at other people's code, and so on. If you need help with coding assignments, come and ask me. Okay, I can sit down with you in Zoom, we can go through, we can look at what you're doing, I can give you some pointers, some things to think about, some ways to test the code that you've written and understand what it's doing, and so on. This is your best bet. Okay, definitely stay, as far away as possible away from Chegg and all these other sites. They will lead you down a bad road in most cases. Cheating is super easy. It was easy before COVID. It's incredibly easy now, right? I had a conversation with someone online who offered to take my course for me for $15. They would get whatever grade I asked them to get. They would use a VPN so that nobody would know where they were logging in from, and so on and so forth, right? $15. But you don't want to do that, right? You want to learn how to program, so that you can go on, you can take other courses and be able to program, you can go off and you can get a job and you can be able to program, right? So you got to do the hard work. So that's the first thing. Second thing, the lines can be fuzzy. if you're unsure whether something is allowed or not, just ask me. Okay? If you come to me and you say, hey, I looked at Stack Overflow and I saw a solution for this, and I don't know if my solution is too close to that, right? I'll look at it and I'll give you some advice. And I'm not going to ding you and say, oh, you looked at Stack Overflow, you get a 0, right? So you can always come and ask me. But you got to be really careful about this, okay? And it's not just, copying work, it's also showing your work to somebody else. So here's the deal. If you turn in work and it looks, like work that I find online or somebody else's work that was turned in, unless it's, a 3-line hello world program or something like that, if it looks like it's a duplicate of pre-existing work, it's an automatic 0, okay? And I'll call you out on it and we'll talk about it. If it happens a second time, it's an F in the course, okay? And there's no wiggle room around this. So if there's any doubt about what you're doing, about how much help you're getting from someone or how much you're using some other resource, come and ask me, okay? And we'll square it away before it becomes a problem. All right, everything has to be turned in on time except for homework. So programming assignments are allowed to be turned in late by using slip days. And so I give you 3 slip days for the quarter. So if something comes up, if you got, programming assignment 1 is due Friday and there's no way you can get it done Friday, you're going to have to turn it in Saturday, right? Send me a note and say, hey, I'm going to use 1 slip day on PA1. And I'll give you credit for turning it in on time, even if you turn it in, by Saturday morning at 8. But save those slip days. Don't just use them because, you're feeling like sleeping in today, or you forgot to do an assignment, right? Save them for emergencies, because if you're out of slip days and then something happens, like there's a storm and the power goes out, right, you can end up with a 0 for turning something in late. So that works for the programming assignments, but not for the one-day programs. The ODPs are automatically graded. There's no option for slipping those. Midterms and finals, don't miss your midterm or final because that becomes a big nightmare logistically. 3 slip days for each student. I'll let you read the keys to success because if I start in on these, that'll be the rest of the class because I can get on a soapbox and really go off on these. But take a look at these. These are just sort of things that I found that might help with being more successful in this course. And ask questions if they come up. And then class cancellation, probably not an issue because we're remote anyway. All right, the rest of the syllabus, really important information, but it has gotten so much information in it that it's really not practical for me to go through it item by item at this point. But please, please, please make sure you read this, okay? Particularly, accommodations, if you feel like you could use some sort of accommodation for, extended testing time, things like that, right? Information here on the Disability Support Services Office can help with that. College-wide policies, non-discrimination, Title IX, and so on and so forth. Please make sure you read through these, okay? We take these very seriously. And if you have any questions about these, come and let me know. Food, housing, financial help is available. So, we're in a strange situation right now with COVID and, businesses closing and so on and so forth. So take a look at this. Ask me questions if you have it. Accommodations for religion or conscience if, you have to miss class because of, some holiday you want to observe and so on. You can read through this. And again, any questions on any of this, just send me a note or come by office and we can talk about it. We're not in a classroom. If we were, we would be wearing masks, we would be socially distancing, and you would be cleaning your area of the classroom before and after class. I would be letting you in single file. We would not be eating or drinking in classrooms, etc., etc. All right. All right, that's the syllabus. Let me see if I have anything to say on additional course policies. This one I pared down pretty significantly. So some keys to success. Some other keys to success. Getting help. Again, the main thing here is your best bet for getting help is to ask during class. If I say something and it doesn't make any sense, ask in class, right? Guaranteed, if there's something happening in class and you're confused, other people are confused also, right? I don't know that unless you ask questions, right? If we're in a physical classroom and I can see you, I can tell, that there's some confusion going on by the way people are looking or acting. That's harder to do online. So ask during class. If not, come by office hours and ask. If you can't come by office hours, send me an email and we'll figure out some other time that we can meet that will work. Worst case, send me an email, nmacias@clark.edu, and I'll try to get back to you, not guaranteed. Don't send me email through Canvas. Canvas email has not been reliable for me. Discourage server we talked about. Linux access and use. Git we'll talk about. Attendance we did. Academic honesty. Late work. One-day programs. All right, so we've already covered all of that. Is the college still revising its COVID recovery plan? As far as I know, that plan is a living plan, right? It will evolve as things occur, as directives come down, as our understanding of things improves, and possibly this week as we see how the current policies and plans are playing out. So yeah, that's probably a ever-changing situation.
Is a syllabus quiz possible? Wink.
Is a syllabus quiz possible? What do you mean?
You're pretty quiet, Nick, compared to everyone else.
Okay, so what do you mean by a syllabus quiz?
Just a quiz on the syllabus.
I don't have one. But if you have questions about it, definitely let me know. All right, so let's talk about the Linux server. So in CSE224A, you probably used a CTEX server. We use a totally different Linux server in this course, and you have different login information. All right, and this is available on that how-to quick start guide on Canvas. But let's just take a look at this. So the server itself is linux.engrcs.com, and there's a few different ways to get into the server. So if you run PuTTY, you can do the same thing that you did for the CTEX server with a different address. If you're running Linux, and you probably want to be running Linux for this course, and we'll talk about how to do that, you can connect with SSH. So SSH, and you can do your username. I'm just going to use test at linux.engrcs.com. And it'll ask you for a password, except my password's already set up. But that will log you in. If you want to use PuTTY, so let me bring up PuTTY window over. So same thing, put in your username at linux.engrcs.com, and it'll ask you for a password. And that connects you. And yeah, you're seeing the answer to homework 1 here, but don't just take it from there. Make sure you can log in.
Instead of PuTTY, is it fine to use git bash?
Yeah, you can use any terminal program that you want for logging in. That's fine.
We'll be using console because I have the Linux-based laptop, but
Okay, cool.
when I'm at work, I have to use git bash.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Use Windows Terminal and just set it up as a JSON.
Yeah, like many other things, there's a gazillion ways to make a connection. As long as it's SSH, it should work. So SSH is a good way to do this. Okay, so your username is your first initial followed by your last name. So if I was a student in this course, my name is Nick Macias, so my username would be N, and then followed by my last name. And let me just go ahead and open this up instead of writing it all. All right, so big red letters. This is different from the CTEC login, okay? So that's the name of the server, and your username is your first initial followed by your last name. No punctuation, no period in between, no mysterious number at the end. If your last name is hyphenated, and I don't think I saw anyone in this class, maybe I did one. If your last name is hyphenated, then that would be, you know, the last name part of your username. So if your name is Tom Smith, you use your ID as T Smith. Okay. Your password is your CTC link ID followed by an underscore. So 10 characters, CTC link ID underscore. Okay. You got to read the instructions once you log in. As soon as you log in, it's going to ask you to change your password. Okay. And this is, I believe, going to ask you to first enter your current password. That's your ID followed by an underscore. And then enter the new password, and then enter the new password again. Okay, you got to do all three of those, otherwise it doesn't take. If you do that, it will log you out, and then when you log in again, you use your new password. If you can't get in with your new password, take a look at the dialog, because chances are it didn't actually change your password for you. So you want to go back, log in with your original password. It'll ask you to change your password by typing in this password again, and then your new password twice. So follow the instructions. I don't know why PuTTY doesn't have a check for updates function. I always disable those, so, but I mean, you know, good software doesn't update, right? Unless there's like a major security issue or something. All right, so that connects you to the server. Let's take a look at your first homework, and let's take a look at your first one-day program. And that may do us for this morning. So, so homework 001, very straightforward. So log into the machine, right? Log into the Linux server, and that will ensure that you know what your username is, you know your password, and you're able to change your password. Okay. Once you log in, you'll see a message that tells you about the machine and so on. Says welcome, and at the bottom it tells you the answer to homework 1, which you probably already saw, right? So take this quiz, homework 1 is a graded quiz, and just put in that answer that it said, and that's homework 1. Okay, so it's really just kind of a test to make sure that you can log in. And if you just take the quiz and put in the answer that you saw from my logging in a few minutes ago, right, that defeats the whole idea of this. The whole idea is to make sure that today you can log in, and if you can't, you have to send me a note right away and let me know, and we'll figure it out. Everybody who was enrolled or on the waiting list as of a few days ago, I should have created an account for. So if you can't get in, let me know. But when you send me emails for help, try to be as complete as possible, right? I don't mind answering one email, but I don't have time to do a lot of back and forth in email. That's what office hours are for. So if you send me an email saying I can't log in, right, that doesn't give me much to go on. So I can't log in. Here's what I did for my username. Here's the server I connected to. Here's what I did for my password, right? I can work with that. I can go and I can see if you have an account. I can tell you if your username is correct and so on and so forth. So give me as much information as you can.
I went in and I already submitted the program in C yesterday.
Yeah.
But I tried it in C++ and I got a 10 out of 10.
Excellent. Okay, yeah, so it's a fairly forgiving program in some cases. All right, let's take a look at your first ODP. And so, yeah, some people have already done this, but let's run through this. I missed them. So ODP 401 is a hello world, right? Literally. So it's due by 8 o'clock Wednesday morning. Most of the stuff in this course is due at 8 a.m. Okay, so pay attention to the time as well as the date. So you want to write a C program that just prints out hello world, okay, followed by a new line. So your standard hello world. And supposing that you've done this, let's look at how we use the assess program. So so I'm on the server. Okay, so I'm gonna make a work area, and I'm going to write my first assignment. Okay, try to avoid program names like test, right? Because there are reserved words in Linux, right? Test is a reserved word in the bash shell. And if I call my program test and then I try to run it with test, it may not work. So a good policy is if I'm working on ODP 401, let's call it ODP 401, right? No chance of confusion. So I'm going to write my program. And I don't mind if you just copy the code from here. This is not an assignment to test your C programming ability. This is an assignment to make sure you know how to edit a program, compile it, and then run the assess function. So I'm going to do main. And so here's my hello world program. And I've got a typo, but that's okay. So I'm going to compile, and if you just compile ODP 401 with GCC, it's called a.out. So I'm going to say, let's call the output file ODP 401. And when I do that, it will tell me there's a problem, right? Something about print BTF, right? So that's a typo. So go in and fix that. And you want your program to compile. And then you should be able to run this program from the command line. /ODP 401, and it says hello world. So to assess it, assess space and then the name of the executable program that you built, and then you have to give it a second command. You also have to give it the name of the source file. So you need to specify the source file as a second argument. So assess ODP 401, ODP 401.c. All right, and there's really one command in here, which is just G. So when you do the assess command, you'll see something in here which says you are about to assess your code for ODP 401. Write a program that outputs hello world without quotes. All right, so I'll hit a G to try to grade that, and it tells me I got 0 out of 10. All right, go back, read the assignment. What does it say? Output exactly hello world followed by a new line. Well, that's not what I did, right? I forgot my new line. And I forgot to make the W uppercase. So I'll put hello world. I'll recompile. I'll re-execute it. That looks correct to me. So I'll go ahead and I'll assess. And I'll say G to say grade. And it tells me I got 10 out of 10. I'm done with ODP 401. I can just exit, and the last grade that you get will be the grade that's recorded. So if I decided to try something different and I tried it and it gave me 0 out of 10, make sure you go back and do the thing that got you 10 out of 10, because this will record the last grade. This means you can try as many times as you like until, in this case, 8 o'clock Wednesday morning. Right? You can keep trying, you can try different things, you can make changes, but the last grade that you get, that's the one that ends up being recorded in Canvas. All right? Yeah.
One, do you have to compile, run your executable after compiling it?
No.
Before you assess, or can you just compile it?
You can just compile and assess, and in general, you don't want to run it without assess, because usually the programs won't run unless you run them through assess. 401 is just a hello world, so that's fine. But yeah, usually just write your code, compile it, and then go straight to assess.
And second question, with the automated assessment system, are the command options case sensitive?
Yes. Yeah, pretty much everything in Linux is going to be case sensitive. All right, send me one more attendance ping, and then we'll go ahead and we'll call it a day. So send me a note, let me know that you're here, and I will close this out after that, and I will see you either in 2:15 this afternoon, or I'll see you tomorrow here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later this afternoon.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.